60 down, 40 to go, part 3 of another instalment of Question Mark. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this. This will be the third and final instalment of this episode, as it were, of Question Mark. Thank you so much to everyone who's asked me a question thus far. This is going to be a long one, because they always are. Let's get on with it. I have no script, I have no notes, I literally have the questions in front of me. Let's go through them. So, I'm going to start off with Mr. Fact Stater. Got 3 questions for me. Question number 1. I think wrestling is more about luck and character than good moves and technical ability. Do you agree? Absolutely. You can be the greatest wrestler in the world, but if you're bland as fuck, you won't draw. Someone like Chris Benoit is a class example of that. I know it's a pretty bit of a taboo subject these days, but he was so good in the ring, wasn't he? But he was so very terrible on the microphone that he was never ever going to get the push that his talents deserved. You know? I think that's what you say is completely and utterly right. His next question is, when I tell people, I don't get this one, when I tell people I like TNA or Hulk Hogan, why do I feel like I've just told them that I like to suck little boys' dicks? I've no idea. Why do you feel like that? His third question is a good one. It's like 3 questions. 1 stupid and 2 are good. Last question. Why do people who've watched wrestling for years, some of which have been involved in the business, still don't understand that being a good wrestler is all about drawing money and not how many reversals they can do? To answer your question, all I can say is I have absolutely no idea. The older I've got, and I think the more mature that I've got, I've realised something that I was told so many years ago by, what was his name? RWG, the Real Wrestling Guru, didn't he? He did a vid years and years and years ago, didn't he? Where he said that wrestling isn't about the lights, the camera, how good you are in the ring. It's all about making money. And at the time, we scoffed at him, like, no, it's not. That's bullshit. I came with, it pains me to say this, that I realised a few years ago now that was utterly bang on the money. At the end of the day, it's a business, and someone like Triple H, you talk about in this business all the time. How good a worker you are depends on how much you can draw, in my opinion. It doesn't matter how good you are in the ring. It's how much people are, if people have got to be prepared to pay to watch you wrestle. So you've got to have some degree of skill, but you've also got to have charisma. The character behind it is much more important. John Cena is a prime example of that, with his 5 moves of doom and all of that. And we're never going to say that John Cena is capable of putting on 5-star matches every single time. The whole could put a good match on with a broomstick, like someone like Chris Benoit or Kurt Angle or Ric Flair, for example, back in his prime. But John Cena, has drawn more money than Kurt Angle ever could. And that's just a straight fact, isn't it? That's a straight fact. I don't understand why people don't get it, but at the same time I do, because I used to think like that. I used to think exactly like that. It's all about what moves you can do and how athletic you are and what your work rate is and all that stupid jargon that the IWC seems to come up with. And I believed in all that completely. Statoki, Statoki says, just in case you only do one of Endigo Wolfpack Trophy 2013, so he has 7 questions, so that wasn't right, so he asked one. Answer 1. He says, I'll ask one of his. As great as they were, I believe Owen Hart, Kurt Hennig, Eddie Guerrero are overrated by today's fans, while at the same time, ravishing Rick Rude is underrated. Agree or disagree? Got to be careful with this one, because this one could get me a bit of heat. Basically, it goes like, I'm sorry, I can see something on my nose here. I keep looking down, I can see something. There's nothing there. I go to wipe it. Sorry. Basically, the problem I've got is that it's not a problem per se. I believe that sometimes that wrestlers, when they die, because they're dead, people will jump on a bandwagon and say how great they were. And to some extent, some people especially will say that Owen Hart is overrated. Because, I can think of 5 matches off the top of my head straight away that I know that Owen was absolutely awesome in, absolutely genuinely brilliant in. But at the same time, there were whole periods of his career where he did absolutely nothing for me at all. Eddie Guerrero is exactly the same. Exactly the same. Since he died, Eddie Guerrero has almost taken on a mythical status, hasn't he? He was one of the greatest ever. Now, I believe He was one of he was my hero, Eddie Guerrero was. I loved everything about Eddie Guerrero. He was fucking awesome. But, in 2000, he wasn't the greatest. And there were times in WCW run where he was with the Latino World Order, for example, that weren't great. Kurt Hennig was awesome in the 80s and the early 90s. Everything after like 1992, was it? Whenever it was he dropped, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what year it was. Please don't say. Whenever he dropped the Intercontinental Championship to Bret Hart, and he, from that match, because his back was so fucked, he was crap, basically. He wasn't very good. He was a great talker, wasn't very good in the ring. Since he's died, that part of his legacy is removed. That's what it is. With the great ones, what they did that was crap in the ring is utterly forgotten because they're dead. You know. Rick Rude is an interesting one. I don't know. I just don't know why he's underrated. In my opinion, Rick Rude is one of, if not the greatest heel that there's ever been. Absolutely brilliant in the ring. So good at getting heat. Most people have just never heard of him or just don't consider him to be that good. In the WWE's Top 50 DVD they released recently, a couple of years ago, he was in the 40s. And you're like, really though? You know, you're saying Batista or someone like that was better. I can't remember. I'm sorry if he wasn't, but it's just an example. Batista was better than Rick Rude. Really? The other thing about wrestling is that it's got a very short memory. It's a what have you done for me lately sort of business. It's what this guy done in the last 5 years. You know, wrestling memory. You know, Jim Cornette once said that wrestling's got a 7-year cycle. Once 7 years have gone past, you can do another storyline. You can do a storyline that's identical to one that's already gone past. Because wrestling people, a lot of wrestling fans come and go, so they will have forgotten it. And it's the same when it comes to nostalgia. I think yeah, I don't know. It's very it's tricky. It's tricky. It really is tricky because. I don't understand with Rude. I don't get it. Go back and watch some of his matches. He's the only person I know that wasn't Hulk Hogan in their ultra-scripted match at WrestleMania to get a decent match out of the Ultimate Warrior, for example. The only one. He did it twice, for example. You know? They're not overrated by today's fans. It's just that it looks at them with this mythical status, you know, in my opinion. Barry Lloyd says, "Hi Mark, love the vids. I find them very entertaining. Keep up the good work. Can you continue to give your vids more views? That's awesome." Recently, I watched an interview with Bret Hart. He was talking about Triple H and how he was a good wrestler, but not a great one, and never had any great matches. What do you think? Do you think he's one of the best, like WWE portray him as, or was he just good, not great? Triple H, especially in 2000, really was one of the best wrestlers in the world. Triple H was probably the best wrestler in the world in 2000. His A game was absolutely incredible. The first of his quad injuries took that away. But I'll tell you something, I can probably name you 5 matches right now, great matches. And just go back and watch his match against Taka Michinoku on Raw and tell me he's not a great worker. Because you believed in Taka watching that match. A great thing about you, a great wrestler can have a match with someone who he doesn't deserve to be in the ring with, like Taka Michinoku didn't, and can make you believe that Taka Michinoku is going to win the match. They make themselves vulnerable, you know? His match with The Rock at Backlash 2000 is awesome. His match with The Rock at SummerSlam 98 is absolutely fantastic. His match with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2002 is absolutely fantastic. His triple threat match, WrestleMania 20, there's your 5, straight away. I know 2 of them have got The Rock in. You know, there's 5 great matches that all had Triple H in them. For example, I think Bret's talking shit. I really do. I saw the interview. It was on the Wrestle Talk, wasn't it, over here? I saw that, and I didn't agree with it one bit. I don't like Bret Hart. I've said for many years, Bret Hart pisses me off because he moans about everything. Colton Kane says, "What did you think of Austin as a heel? I know it was awful for business and the storyline was garbage, but personally I think Austin was a brilliant heel. What did you think?" Austin as heel didn't give enough of himself, so he didn't look vulnerable. That's great. That's what I think heels got to do. They've got to be able to look vulnerable. As you know, when they win, it's all good. But the thing is, his ring style didn't particularly change. Austin's ring style over the years was the same thing over and over again. He gave nothing of himself. He just always looked dominant. So for years and years and years and years and years, he kicked the shit out of everyone who came, to the point where it got to in 2001, where in early 2002, it's just like, God, this guy's so boring, isn't he? The thing is, The character where he was hugging Vince and the Kumbaya stuff was just fantastic. I can see why they turned him heel. I've always said this, that the character was getting stale already. He'd only been back for like 6 months when he turned heel at WrestleMania 17, and it was getting boring because it was just the same shit every time. It was like, I mean, that's what I say. Austin would get into a feud with someone and batter them, and then go into another feud with someone else and batter them, and then get into a feud with someone else and batter them. And it was just, it was constant. Like John Cena these days, he doesn't ever lose. Ever lose. When the time is now, right now is the time that John Cena should be putting over as many people as is humanly possible to create the next generation of superstars. Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't do that, in my opinion. He was entertaining as a heel, he was, genuinely, but still believe it was a mistake. Sarcastic Venom asked a great question, which is, hey Mark, do you know what I can see, right? I can see this hair here. It's longer than all the others. That's what I can see. It's not on my nose at all. Aren't I weird? Hey Mark, I never liked how Eddie Guerrero won the title. See, I can see it. I don't think I had any build-up. He feuded with Chavo in a crap match. We're going to get to that later on, early next year on, in the Royal Rumble 2004. Next one, a SmackDown Rumble next week, and then got the title shot and felt very rushed. Benoit's push started in October 2003. How would you have booked a title win differently? I'll tell you, I can answer this question so simply, Rob. I really, really can. It goes like this, right? When Eddie Guerrero was the United States champion, his popularity went through the fucking roof, yeah? And then he dropped the title, and we'll talk about this in the 10 Years Ago series later on this year. He dropped the title to the Big Show in a useless match. Before he dropped the US title to the Big Show, they should have put the world title on him. It is that simple. The fucking he was in the fall, as you Americans call it, in the autumn of 2003. There wasn't a hotter wrestler on the SmackDown side of the locker room than Eddie Guerrero. Yeah, they should have pulled the trigger, on his push right there and shot him into orbit. Genuinely. I agree, the title felt rushed. I was so chuffed when he won the belt. I went into No Way Out thinking there is no way in hell that Eddie Guerrero was going to win this match, and he did, and it was fucking awesome. And, I went mental. I remember so clearly the SmackDown afterwards, the celebration they had for him, and it was awesome. And, my God, when he went to WrestleMania and when he beat Angle, it was a fuck yes, because I'm going to the SmackDown house show tour in Newcastle, just, the WrestleMania Revenge tour, means I'm going to see Eddie Guerrero holding that fucking belt up high. Fucking epic. But yeah, way too rushed, like you say. Like I say, October time, September, October in 2003, right when Benoit's push started, that is when they should have pulled the trigger. Shot this guy to the fucking stratosphere. Genuinely, that's what I think. Great question, that one, dude. Matt Glenn says, I've just started watching the brand split eras from 2003 to 2007. How do you feel about this era of pay-per-views? Was it a good idea because it allowed lots of mid-card talent to get pay-per-view time and showcase guys that may not get time on pay-per-views? Or do you feel oversaturated the pay-per-view market and the fact that having so much mid-card talent on the show hurt the buy rates? Also, what was your favourite pay-per-view from the brand split era? Now, we're going to be talking about the brand split era because we're just about to start it. My next 10 Years Ago episode, which will be up in a couple of weeks' time, Judgment Day 2003. After that, we are into the brand split ones. So I'm not actually answering that part of the question because I'm going to go through them and we're reviewing them as part of my 10 Years Ago series. I hope that's not a cop-out for you. It's just that thing. My best one, there's one coming up soon, Vengeance 2003. It's a show that I remember absolutely loving. There was only one or two matches on it, but I remember the top 4 matches, I think it was, were just magnificent. I don't want to answer too much into it, you see. I thought I liked the idea of it. I really did. It's like you say, it meant that they had a chance to create new stars by making the mid-carders into the stars. But they didn't, so, it was one of those crazy things. And then, of course, later on in the years, and it all became just a jumbled, muddled mess. Yeah, the thing is, they never, in my opinion, they never gave the two shows a separate identity. And, they also never made it so Raw was always the favoured one. They never gave SmackDown the big push that it could have been. It started off in 2003 with the SmackDown 6, like it was the wrestling show, while Raw was the soap opera show. Does that make sense? And, the big guys were all on Raw. You like that? You big guys. That's my action for big guys. They were all on Raw, whereas the wrestlers were on SmackDown. But that really didn't last that long, did it? What did I think? It makes sense. At the end of the day, they didn't have the competition with WCW and a lesser extent ECW, so competition in brand. But at the end of it, it's still the same company, and so it was never real competition. It was an idea that, they tried it, they talked about doing it for such a long time, didn't they? Then we actually did it, and we still shit all over it anyway. The SmackDown ones I remember in 2003 especially being good. I'm looking forward to reviewing those. The Raw ones, Bad Blood, I'm dreading watching, because, well, it's got a Hell in a Cell match, hasn't it? Which I'm sure you know which one I mean. Next! Talking Shit 111 says, what is your opinion on blood in wrestling? Do you know, my opinion on blood in wrestling changed when I watched the last of the McGuinness documentary. Up until that point, I've always said that we need blood. Blood's vital. Blood's an important thing. Nowadays, that opinion's changed a little bit. I don't quite feel the same since, the Nigel and the hepatitis C and all that, hepatitis B, whichever one it was. I do apologise if I'm wrong. Blood is a tricky one. I like to see blood in feud ending matches, and there are matches like a cage match that it feels wrong to watch someone's head get bounced off a cage and then not get split open. Blood adds drama to a title match. It should be used sparingly. It shouldn't be like the Attitude Era when everyone got busted open all the time. But it shouldn't ever be used by a heel. This is something I've never understood about Triple H matches. It should be used by the babyface. Right, because the babyface gets busted open and gets beaten up by the heel, and then it's part of the overcoming the odds that the babyface wins. Because that's wrestling 101, isn't it, Spaz Phoenix? You don't like that, but it's just a simple fact, and it's just the truth. That the babyface always overcomes the odds, and the more odds that you put in their place, and the more obstacles that they have to overcome, then the bigger it is, right? So oh man, it's one of those tricky things. I think blood still has a place in wrestling. The thing about blood is how you get it. It's so fucking stupid. What other profession is there out there in the world that says to get blood you're going to cut yourself with a razor blade? That's so daft. In this modern age, it's like if they can do the, I'm sure you all know how they do the mist, don't you? You know how they do it. You don't do this shit. Right, the red mist that Shadira used, the green mist, yeah? Referee has a condom full of ink in his pocket, right? He gives that to the wrestler. Wrestler squeezes it so it all comes out into his mouth and then he sprays it out. That's how it's done. If you didn't know that, now you do. Happy days. Why can't they do something like that why can't they use fake blood at the end of the day? At the end of the day, right? Have a little tiny blood capsule, right, that you roll out of the ring, burst that, not actually cut it, but squirt it. Jesus Christ, what I used to do in my backyard days. It was always fake blood, and I'm admitting that for the first time here, right now. I got busted open twice in UBW. Every other time was fake, alright? I've never admitted that. I've always stressed that it was real, but it was fake. Clearly it was fake. If you watch my matches, you know sometimes you can actually see me unscrewing my ball before I go into place, and then the camera cuts to a different angle. When you come back, I'm covered in blood because I've gone, squirt out. That hurt. Just whacked my hand on the fucking cabinet. Blood has a place, in my opinion, but I'm not, at the same time, like I say, that's changed recently. Big feuds that have lasted a while, and you've got the big blow-off match, which is always a stipulation. Sometimes I believe that blood has a place, is what I'll say. How's that sound? I may have contradicted myself quite a few times then, but yeah, I do that. Don't I? As people have told me many times. Here's a question. The Bidger says, what do you think WCW will be like if it was still around today? And having been in the hands of capable bookers, do you think it would have been ahead of WWE or between WWE and TNA? That is a question I just cannot answer, can I? I mean, when TNA started up, we all said it won't last a year, it won't last 2 years, it won't last 5 years, it won't last 10 years, and it's still in, it's still going strong. So I just don't know. I mean, WCW, in its day, was really good, but at the same time, there were years when it was utterly shit. I think the thing with WCW is if they kept going as they were, no, I don't mean as they were like with the bookers, what I mean is with the TV slots that they had and drawing the numbers that they did, I think the Attitude Era may have lasted a couple of years longer, maybe. I still think that because of the way that the competition went, one of them would have been put out of business. But at the end of the day, I can't say it, 10 years later what WCW would have been like. Because that's like asking, I think I asked on one of the other parts of this Q&A, what will the WWE be like in 10 years' time? It's like, who knows whether it'll still exist? We can't say, because obviously it didn't happen, that WCW would have lasted, say, for example, 5 years and then would have gone under. For example, unfortunately, that is a question that I just can't answer. Craig Johnson says, hey Mark, congratulations on the 1,000 subscribers of Doom! My question is, out of all the wrestling autobiographies you bought over the years, which ones have left you crying out for refund? Good question, my friend. Chyna's was terrible, Kurt Angle's was terrible, The Hardy Boys was terrible, Hulk Hogan's is the best work of fiction I've ever read, but as a factual autobiography, absolutely terrible. Those are the ones that come to mind. It's the ghostwritten ones. It's simple as that. If I read a wrestling book, I want it to be written by the wrestler, not the wrestler. Because you know how ghostwriting works, don't you? You don't. Shit. Right, okay, ghostwriting. Gosh, you learn a lot on this one, aren't you? Ghostwriting is where wrestler A sits down. Right, I'm wrestler A. I sit down with a guy who writes books, right? And basically, I tell my story. He sits there with a dictaphone, records it all. He then goes home, turns that into a book. It's that simple. It's why you see mistakes in books. It's why you see fuck-ups. It's why you see the wrong dates, the wrong championships, all that sort of thing. It's why they're so wank, basically. Bret Hart's book is really good. Chris Jericho's book is really good. Those two wrote their own books. You know, so it's from their perspective, and there isn't mistakes in it. That's all I know. But yeah, I think the worst one is Hulk Hogan's by Country Mile, because it's so full of shit. It's so full of lies. Saying that Shawn Michaels is pretty terrible, as is Ric Flair's now I think about it, to be honest. I may have said in the past that the books were good, but I've recently read all my wrestling books to the point where I've bought 15 new wrestling books this last week. Some that I've really wanted to read for a long time, like Terry Funk's book. I wanted to buy, and seeing Regal on Raw this week made me buy The Golden Mile, the William Regal book. Yeah, there's a lot of the old ones that I've reread recently. I've gone, God, this is shit. Eric Bischoff's is full of shit. Loads of them. All the ghost-written ones are wank. Mac Dads with a Z, 67. What do you think of love triangle storylines in wrestling, WWE in particular? When they're done well, like the Trish Angle and Triple H one, I liked it. I can live with the soap opera elements of it. It didn't actually go anywhere in the end, but I mean, as a rule, I just don't care. Because like, why? I don't give a damn that Big Show and John Cena and Edge are all in love with Vicky Guerrero. I just don't give a shit because I want to see wrestling. You know, I like matches to have a reason to happen. Everyone does, but at the same time, it's like, oh, just get on with it, please. Your other question is, do you consider Randy Orton a legend of the business? No, I don't. You know, I said a moment ago, I can name you 5 really good matches. Randy Orton, struggled to. Is the truth. My favourite Randy Orton match is still to this day his match at Backlash 2004 with Mick Foley. That match is fucking superb. But, I mean, I struggle to like Randy Orton at the best of times. He's not in my top 10 favourite WWE guys. He's probably not in my top 15 if I think about it. He's just another guy who I just don't see what the appeal is. So, in my opinion, you may disagree, but in my opinion, Randy Orton isn't a legend. No. Phenom L37 asks 4 questions. Really? 4? Congratulations on gaining 1,000 subscribers. Keep having fun and making the vids. Has there ever been a pay-per-view that you refused to watch again, even if pay-per-view? December to Dismember was awful, wasn't it? But every single pay-per-view from 2000, I will never... from WCW, sorry, not WWF. From WCW in 2000, I will never, ever, ever watch again. Ever. I will point blankly refuse to watch them. If someone says, we should watch this, I'll get my laptop and go, look, here's my review of it. This is why we shouldn't watch this. Could Wrestle Talk do more to help promote British wrestling by featuring it in their show, or does British wrestling need their own show to help promote it? That's a tricky one, you see. That really is. Wrestle Talk, in my opinion, should be an hour long. Half an hour should be about American wrestling, which is why people are tuning in to see it. Half an hour of it should be about British wrestling. That is how I'd like to do it. I can't see it ever happening, and I'll explain why in a moment, because there's another question about British wrestling and Wrestle Talk. I'll talk about that. 3, can you ever see Vettel join Ferrari? No, it won't, because they won't have 2 such talented drivers in them. Alonso needs a backup guy. Massa is that guy. Will you ever do a vid talking about Liverpool football? No, because I don't care. I know I'm wearing a Liverpool shirt at the moment. Again, I'll talk about that one because there's a question specifically about Liverpool coming up. Joe Collins is a cunt. He says, hi Mark, hi, it's Joey Collins. Is it? It doesn't say Joe Collins in your name, you prick. So I like Joey a lot, so I'm allowed to say that. I know you love doing these videos, so I thought I'd give you a very serious question to mull over. If you were a wrestler, who would you least want to share a room with? Midian, Tensai, before he decided to get rid of his back hair. The Blue Meanie, or the Ultimate Warrior. So let's look at this one. Midian would be naked, wouldn't he? Because he's naked Midian. Ultimate Warrior talks bollocks and doesn't make any sense. Tensai is a very hairy guy. But the thing is, right, all these four, I don't think I'd have a problem with. I don't know much about Midian, to be honest, but Tensai I could ask about his experiences in Japan, so that wouldn't be bad. Blue Meanie seems like a really cool, down-to-earth guy. And Ultimate Warrior, I'd probably just record everything we said, so that the next day I can actually go, right, so what the fuck were we actually talking about last night? Why would you ask me that, Joey? With all the questions, you could ask me that. I'm going to go with the Blue Meanie, because he seems like a sensible, down-to-earth guy. Brock Tree 4 says, hey Mark, what do you think of the members of the... Oh, this question is fantastic. What do you think of the members of the IWC/YWC freaking out about El Generico wrestling without his mask? What do you think from the comments that without the mask, El Generico has the wrestling skills of Great Kelly and doesn't have a chance of getting over? God, it made me smile. Oh, it made me smile. It really did. The way that everyone was, oh my God, El Generico has been forced to wrestle without his mask. Like, right, if he didn't want to wrestle without his mask, he wouldn't have signed for WWE. He surely must have known when he signed for WWE, he wouldn't be El Generico anymore. Guys, chill the fuck out. There's more important things going on in the world. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. It doesn't bother me one tiny little bit. Genuinely doesn't. I mean, why should it? You know, there's fucking poverty going on, famine in the world. Why would I give a shit about fucking a guy losing his mask? Why? Doesn't bother. It genuinely doesn't bother me one bit. Mads Rockadude says, hey Mark, what do you... I just got to go back to the members of the IWC going freaking out about it, and the YWC freaking out about it. It just makes me chuckle, and the reasons why. I know I am technically a member of the IWC and the YWC because I talk about wrestling on YouTube, but at the same time, it's why... Excuse me, where did that come from? It's why I have nothing to do with the YWC. I'm not subscribed to anyone at all from the YWC these days. I don't watch anyone's vids from the YWC. Why? Because I've said this before, A, they're all boring as sin. B, they're all boring as sin. C, they are all boring as sin. And D, my God, have you seen the YWC in their videos? My God, they're boring. But most importantly, they all say the same fucking thing. So they'll watch Truth Slayer's video, for example, and then make a video where they repeat Truth Slayer's opinions and call them their own. It's like, really, guys? You're so... There's no creativity in the YWC whatsoever. When someone does something creative and it gets sent to me, it's like, wow, that's actually genuinely good. The British Fist guys are very good. I think, because they've got two separate opinions and they've got two of them doing it. But, I mean, I don't really watch their videos very often, to be honest, because... Well, Mr. Parkin is a very angry guy at the moment, isn't he? He's fucking hating on Raw so badly. And the thing is, with me, of course, I've said this before, I hate watching anyone's review until I've done my own thing. And I wish people would do that. Make your vid, yeah? Put it online, they're your opinions, then go and watch someone else's vid to see how your opinions differ. Otherwise, you're going to be led and you're going to be strung along by other people's opinions. So, of course, we've got one guy making a big, I cannot believe El Generico's taken his mask off. Next thing you see, the 100 videos go, oh, God, El Generico's taking his mask off. I bet deep sort of thing, you know? And it's just really, really, really get out more. There's a whole world out there and go and get some fucking sex. How's that sound? What is your least favourite and your favourite match stipulation? It's from JDL92MCFC. Now, I've said many times before, my cage match is the definitive feud settler for me. If you've got a feud that's been lasting ages, settle it in a cage. You can't escape. You can do whatever the fuck you want to each other. And like I was talking about a moment ago, needs blood. As a rule, blood is needed from the challenger, but at the same time it works in the context of the cage match for the heel to get busted open as well, because the face is so desperate for revenge and so angry about what the heel's done to him, he will bounce him off the cage. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You know, least favourite are ones that are on the pole. I don't see the point in matches like that one bit. Reverse battle royals, you ever seen one of those? The last person to get into the ring, they're stupid. The whole King of the Mountain one is daft as fuck. There's loads. There is genuinely loads and loads and loads. I don't like Money in the Bank matches as a rule. I mean, I do, because the thing about Money in the Bank matches is there's too much. There's normally too many people in them, which as a rule means that there's, you know, something happening in the ring and a big spot's going down. But then there's 3 guys on the outside who are selling, but they're all, you know, they're not selling at all. They're sat watching the action, waiting to get into their ring, into their ring, idiot, into the ring, so that they can do their next big spot. There's many match stipulations that I really genuinely don't like. I think anything on a pole was done to death by WCW, and I've been so put off by the Judy Bagwell on a pole match that I've been put off pole matches for life. Cage matches, pole matches. Mad Rocker Dude says, hi Mark, what do you consider the greatest WWE feud to never happen? Personally, I think it's Rock versus Triple H. What's yours? That would have been good, wouldn't it? It would have been good feud. Thought about that in previous video. Let me tell you, the match that I always wanted to see that I never got to see was Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. The 3 biggest players in the Attitude Era never had a match. That is baffling to me. And if they might have done a house show, but they never had it on pay-per-view. It would have drawn massive money. Huge money. And why they didn't do it, I just don't know. They were meant to do it. I'm sure you all remember Survivor Series 1999 was when it was meant to happen. Austin got run over and was replaced by the Big Show, and look what happened there. That's what I would have liked to have seen. But like, the one you just said there, Rock versus Triple H would have been money a couple of years ago for sure. Aston MRB says, I can't see it ever happening, but if WWE were to bring back the European Hardcore or Light Heavyweight Championships, who would be a good modern day wrestler to hold them? None of them, because all of those belts are wank. Why have I got to keep stressing this one, right? Look at this one, right? If you've got a company, like, imagine I've got a wrestling company, it's called UBW. Let's go up, I would say, it's just need to remember. UBW should have a World Heavyweight Champion and a tag team champion, right? They are your goals. Your goal as a wrestler should always be to gain the top prize, the very top one. You don't need any other belts, right? If you must have one, you have one other belt, right? Now, it depends what your company is based around, what you have. So if you've got a lot of women in your company, have a women's championship, all right? If you've got a lot of cruiserweights in your company, go and have a cruiserweight champion. I still to this day don't understand what the difference between a world title and an intercontinental championship is. Surely, even though it's my favourite ever belt, surely the intercontinental championship should be replaced with the United States Championship. Why? Because the WWE are primarily a American company. They're not a world company per se. They do travel around the globe, but 95% of their shows are in America. Why? Someone explain to me what intercontinental is, how it's different to world, and I'll give you lots of cash. Well, I mean, I won't, but you know, it's a figure of speech. So the light heavyweight. So when these belts were brought in the Attitude Era, right? And this is the thing I don't get, where people, I do not understand why people rant and rave about them so much. We need to bring back the hardcore title. What? So we can have 15 title changes on one show. Every single belt that you bring in waters down the prestige of the other championships. That's why WWE needs to get rid of one of its world titles, needs to get rid of one of its secondary titles. This is just plain fact. It's just a straight up plain fact. So to answer your question, I'm going to say what I always say in situations like this, is that no one at all, because none of those belts should ever see the light of day again. Ever. European title was fucking stupid because it was never defended in Europe. Okay? It's all good being European champion in America. What does it mean? What does that mean? You're the European champion. Yeah, and I'm the champion of Europe, right? And how many times have you defended it in Europe? None at all. Oh, right. Hardcore Championship was a fucking joke. It started off as a great premise. I liked the idea of it at first. When it resorted to hardcore being let's hit each other with cookie trays. Stupid. Light heavyweight title is all good and well as long as the light heavyweights you've got in your company are treated with respect and are treated and are presented as credible guys. I don't give a fuck though if Big Slow squashes 3 cruiserweights and then one of those cruiserweights next week is going after the cruiserweight title, because I've seen him get utterly squashed by the Big Show. How's that sound? James David James, that can't be your real name, it can't be. Says, hi Mark, long time fan, cheers. So this is what I was talking about before, about the British question, because I've flicked through these questions before. Do you feel as someone who goes to a lot of British wrestling shows, that in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be some British wrestling on a major TV channel and not some rush 30-minute show on Challenge. Now, he's referring to the BritWres show that was on Challenge 2 weeks ago, 30 minutes of British wrestling action. But the problem was that one of the matches was 10 years old. One of the matches was picked from PCW, which I've heard so much good shit about this one match. It's Money in the Bank match from PCW. Dave Rain won it, unfortunately. But yeah, this really kick-ass match was condensed into like 2 minutes. So you're like, oh right, you left wanting more. Then maybe that's the idea. But all the matches were clips, and none of them were new. None of them were from this year, for example. So the thing is, right, this is what I'll say. This is what I will say to anyone who talks about British wrestling on TV. Lord knows I want British wrestling on public TV. British wrestling being on Challenge is awesome because everyone in this country gets Challenge, right? Thing is, wrestling fans these days are used to seeing WWE and TNA, and are used to seeing WWE/TNA production values. So if you have WWE on, if you have TNA on Challenge, for example, on what you're watching Impact, and then it's next up British wrestling. Now let me just use PCW as an example, right? PCW have got such a kick-ass layout at the Lava Ignite Club in Preston, right? They've got a great layout, and they can cram 800 people in there. They've got a good sound system, they've got big screens everywhere, they've got a cheap bar. That's all good. What is their big limitation? They've got a fuck off great big chandelier above the ring, right? Now that, when you're there live, looks brilliant and makes sure the ring's lit properly, but it would be torture. It would be so hard putting that on TV and making it look good. Basically, wrestling fans have been conditioned and trained to be used to talking about what I was talking about before, the pyrotechnics and the lights, the cameras, the action, everything looking really great. And then you put on a wrestling TV show that's from England, yeah, that's filmed in the local working men's club. And it just looks so cheap. It looks so cheap. What we need in this country is someone to come along who has got very deep pockets, who doesn't mind losing a bit of cash, who doesn't mind spending a bit of money, and getting a Fed together that has got the best production values of anyone. But of course, the thing to do that, they also need to have the best wrestlers. They also have to have the best storylines. They need to get a Fed. There needs to be a Fed out there in this country that is literally turning people away every single show that they put on. Consistently, every single time. So the other thing, of course, is casual fans is what they want. They need, from this match, it's all good and well, the PCW tonight, as I film this, it's Friday night, I've got 800 people, sold out crowd, because they've got Goldust, and they've got $1 Million Man, and they've got Johnny Gargano. They've got a great looking card. Listen to me putting PCW over. Fucking hell, I bet you never thought you'd see that coming. Right? It's all good and well that, right? So let's say for argument's sake, those 800 PCW fans, they want to see they want to see PCW on TV, yeah? But those fans who've tuned into TNA Impact, and I know a lot of people who watch Impact, believe it or not, and they're not big wrestling fans, these are casual fans. These are people who used to like wrestling and go, oh, wrestling's on. Now, what do they think? Just put it in your mind, yeah? What do they think when they tune into Impact and then PCW live from Lava at Night comes on? And I'm not ripping on PCW here. I swear, I like them nowadays. I've got a lot more time than these days than I used to. All right, but it just looks shit compared. No matter how good they do, PCW, all their shows are filmed in HD. They send their DVDs out on Blu-ray, but it still will look like it's been filmed in a nightclub. Do you know what I mean? So PCW have got this great talent roster. They've got, well, they haven't really got good storylines, but they've got some storylines in place. That's my biggest weakness. My biggest problem with PCW. There's no matches happening for matches reason. There's no storylines going on. So someone like Future Shock, my home Fed, I love being in the Guildhall, and I buy all the DVDs, and I eagerly look forward to watching the DVDs. I've got one coming tomorrow, believe it or not. The thing is, the Guildhall will look utterly shit on TV. It will look utterly wank. British TV, British wrestling, sorry, I don't know why I said British, like a scale there. British, come on, English, with a decent accent and good education. British wrestling will have to step up its game so very much to get on TV. That one you talked about, David James, where that Brit wrestling, how many of the matches actually stood out and looked really good? That's the question for you, David James. If I don't see in the comments a comment from you, I need you to answer me this. What did you think of that British TV show? You know, did you think the matches looked any good? Because I didn't. I thought all 4 of them looked crap. You know. Also, the other thing is, I'm sorry to go on a rant. People who don't like British wrestling, I do apologise. The other thing is, you can't have matches in clip form, because wrestling primarily is an emotional investment. You have to get emotionally invested into a match. So if there's a match that's happening, and you know you're not getting told why it's happening, so you've got this Money in the Bank match from PCW that you've got 6 of the top guys, 6 or 7 of the top guys in British wrestling. Why is this match happening? You're not told at all. So why should you care? You know, how often do I say on a vid, this match isn't happening for any reason, so I don't give a shit about it. You know, wrestling is an emotional investment. That is what has to happen in wrestling. If you've got a 10-minute clip show or a 10-minute clip, you know, a 10-minute match that's all clips, you're not going to invest in it. Nice and simple. I'm sorry for the long-winded answer there, but that's the topic that I'm really passionate about. I talked to a lot of people who say, oh yeah, Future Shock needs to be on TV. No, it doesn't. It really, really doesn't. It needs to be very, very far away from TV. I want it to be on TV because I want more people to sort of see it. I want people to go, that's that Future Shock that Mark P's always talking about. I should give that a watch. Don't do that. Get on the Future Shock website. Google it, Future Shock Wrestling, buy a DVD and go, now I get it, because you will. I guarantee it. Fighting Club says, we all know you'd like to be a heel manager. I really would. Personally, I think you could do it. Thank you very much for that. In talk still. In the history of wrestling, which heel tag team would you magically go back in time and be heel manager of? Sporting a heel beard of Doom, of course. Of Doom, he's put. You just think who you could connect with and who would be a great marrier of. So off the top of my head, he says the Nasty Boys, for example, the Four Horsemen, Money Inc. All good choices. None of those would be the one that I would do. Mine would be the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. In the WWF, I would want to be their manager because they were both fucking awesome. I mean, the Four Horsemen would be nice, but come on, it's JJ Dillon, for goodness sake, who didn't have a heel beard, by the way. Heel beards, I don't think, go with managers. I've thought about this recently. I've thought, I need to get this fucker down here if I'm going to be a really good manager. And then I thought to myself, no, I don't really. Wrestlers have got to have heel beards, not managers. If you notice, the heel managers, not very many of them have heel beards. It's something I've only noticed in the last couple of weeks, and it's one of those, but I hate not having my beard, so maybe I should just have a short beard to be a heel manager. Yeah, Brainbusters, straight away. It's the first one. When I read your question, it's straight away. James Ben says, hey Mark, congratulations on 1,000 plus subscribers. I wanted to ask you, knowing that you went to Interaction 2002, I wanted to ask, with Raw tapings being in London every April, have you considered going? Let me tell you, I may have answered this already on the Q&As already. I'm sorry if I have. WWE tickets are ludicrously expensive. A friend of mine's just bought tickets for the next SmackDown tapings over here in the UK. Yeah, they are 23 quid, and they are right at the back, right? And so you think to yourself, ringside seats will be what, 60, 70, 100 pounds, right? When I go to Future Shock, my ringside ticket cost me a tenner. So you could go to 10 Future Shock. You go to a year's worth of Future Shock shows. Now, you won't see CM Punk at Future Shock, but I guarantee you will see a better show. I went to a Future Shock show last Sunday. As you all know, did a review on it after Raw. 3 matches stood out that were absolutely fucking incredible. Just awesome wrestling. And the thing is, there wasn't a bad match in the rest of it. So to answer your question, it's as simple and no. I haven't been to a WWE show since 2004. I can't see anything changing that, unless the only thing that will change it is if they do a pay-per-view over here. I went to Interaction, like you say. If they did a pay-per-view over here again, if they did WrestleMania, God, I'd be first in line for the ticket. If they did a pay-per-view over here, then I would go. Different story. I would go to it. But as just a Raw taping, a WWE house show, I'm just not interested. Mr. Filmmaker Phil says, F1 question. If all F1 drivers were put in the same machinery, now I assume you mean all of today's, not everyone who's ever driven an F1 car. Like, in the same machinery, like Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel, who do you think would come out on top? And that's a really tricky question, because it's one of those things. So, someone like, I don't know, Narain Carter-Caton, for example, who drove in F1 last year and the year before, who was utterly bollocks, would he be very good if he had a Red Bull underneath him? The answer, of course, you've got to think to yourself that there's no crap. One of the things I've learned over the years is there's no really, really shit F1 drivers. What I mean by that is they have to have had some skill to get to where they got to. Someone like, was it E-Day, who drove in the Super Guerrero in 2006. Maybe he was the exception to the rule. So, there's a couple of people like that. But, I mean, God, I would love to see Lewis Hamilton in a Red Bull, in last season's Red Bull, to see what he could do with it. In my opinion, though, and I will admit, I don't just say this because I'm a Ferrari fan. In my opinion, the best driver in F1 today, by a mile, is Fernando Alonso. If he was put in, if all of them were put in the same machinery, he would win the race every time, I think. In my opinion. Wrestling Machine, thank you for that one, by the way. Wrestling Machine 9999 says, I am definitely a loyal subscriber to you, Mark. I've been subscribed to you since your Mark Pearson 101 account. So what about my Pearson 101 account? Not that long, eh? I have 2 gaming questions for your Q&A. It's interesting, if that's okay. Anyway, here you go. Chiok's question 1 is, I have had a look at your Xbox 360 gamer tag before, and when I looked at your gamer score was about 16,000 G. That's correct. So out of all the games you've played, what's the toughest Xbox 360 achievement you have ever accomplished or achieved? See, looked at the questions first. I've had a bit of time to think about this one. There's one on Halo 3, where to get the Hayabusa armor, you've got to get all the skulls on the game. There's a skull on each level, yeah? You've got to get all the skulls. And then on the last level, there's a room you have to go in. There's 3 rooms you go into, right? And all of them have got these big circular lights around them. And you have to jump through the hoops that these lights are on, yeah? In a set order, yeah? Now, I do not like cheating. I don't go on cheat sites. I can't stand it. It's like, I don't see the point. If you can't beat the game, don't fucking go and cheat. Just find a way of doing it. Does that make sense? So, I spent months jumping through these bastard hoops trying to fucking figure out the right order to do it. Months and months and months. Now the second one is one that I haven't got yet. I think it's just too hard for someone like me, and that is, that I play a lot of F1 games, and there's an achievement on the last 3, win the Drivers' Championship on the hard difficulty. Now the hard difficulty is manual gears, which I just cannot use to save my life, and no traction control. Now, I rely on traction control, something fierce, to stop the wheels spinning up. And nowadays, on F1 2012, I use a semi-automatic gearbox, which what that means is an automatic gearbox, but you've got the power to override it. If you think it's in the wrong gear, you can click it. So I find myself in races a lot nowadays, when I think it's in the wrong gear, shifting down, shifting up. I do that a lot. I've never ever got that achievement. I've never got the win the World Championship on the hard difficulty. Never once. And I don't think I ever will. Your second one is, what is the most annoying enemies that you have ever fought on a game? God damn. I mean, that's a hard one. That is a genuinely hard one. On any game ever, the most. Can I just answer the one? Just give you. I don't. That one is one that when I read it, I went, that's gonna be a hard one to answer. Now, a couple of hours later, or a couple of days later, it's like, nah, I still don't know. I'm afraid I can't answer that second one. I mean, enemy. Can I use my mate Scott on this example of that one? I race all the races I do. I race with a guy called Scott. If you type in. In fact, I'm going to put a link to his channel. Have a look down here. If you like F1, right? If you like my F1 reviews, go and look at this guy's channel, because all his videos are co-op races that me and him do. So you can hear me swearing a lot or getting really disparaged when I spin off, right? Scott is the worst person to drive with because he's so fucking good. Right, let me tell you a story. Last night, I was doing the time trial on Hockenheim, right? Because it's the next race that we've got to do on our co-op championship, right? And I've been practicing at Hockenheim for 3 days because at Silverstone, our last race, I span off on the second corner the first corner of the second lap, which was beyond maddening, right? So I've been practicing and I've been practicing. Last night, I changed one little part of my car. I went out, I did a lap that was half a second faster than his. I sent him a message, dude, just done this. And I was like, turns to my girlfriend, like, look at what the fuck I've just done. And even she was impressed, right? 2 minutes later, I swear, 2 minutes later, comes up with a message. I'm not impressed that you beat me by half a second. Then, because I'm already on the Xbox, I noticed his gamer tag has, it's a big boss. Has just started started playing F1 2012. Like, right, must have pissed him off that much, yeah. Do you know he goes and does a lap 2/10 faster than mine, and you're just like, you're a cunt. You're an absolute cunt. Can you not just let me have 1 minute of glory? It's like, no, I have to beat you now. So regarding enemies, I'm not too sure. Regarding people that are hard to play against, Scott's at the very top of the list. Of course, the thing about that is it means it is so satisfying when you beat him. It is so satisfying. At the Bahrain Grand Prix, I absolutely wiped the floor with him. Seriously, beat him by 30 seconds. Whooped his ass. Completely whooped his ass. And when that happens, there is no more satisfying feeling. Trust me, there is nothing more satisfying. Here's a question I don't understand. Hi Mark, I recently watched the SummerSlam non-sanctioned match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and I was so impressed with the game's ring psychology. Ah, you see, now that makes sense. Now I've read it like that. This is from Sexual Sense. He's also has to be one of the best at doing blade jobs. I want to know how highly you rate him as a wrestler over the years. Ah, you see, we've already talked about Triple H. We've already talked about him, so happy days. As you saw, also I saw some Nugget ask you 7 questions, so, so I thought we could ask you another one. I couldn't seem to find, I can answer this one for you happily. I can't seem to find a Vengeance 2001 pay-per-view in the 10 Years Ago series where Jericho became the undisputed champion. Do you have it somewhere? Thanks, Davey. Now, the thing about that one is it's part of the lost episodes. There was 4 pay-per-views that we've never reviewed as part of the 10 Years Ago series. They were Unforgiven, No Mercy, Survivor Series, and Vengeance 2001. If you watched the last episode of Question Mark, or part 1, I'm sorry, I forget which one, I was asked the question, are you going to do the lost ones? Because we've done Unforgiven 2001 as part of the series. It's all a question of time. It's all a question of, can I be asked to sit and watch some Alliance bollocks, sort of thing. One day, that show will be uploaded. I just don't know when. So to answer your question, I've never reviewed it. I will one day. Fandango is awesome. Says, do you think more women's wrestlers should go in Playboy to help them get over? Does being in Playboy help you get over? Surely you've got to be over with the fans to go in Playboy, surely. But, there's a potential for lots of great matches. For example, AJ Lee versus Layla, Beth Phoenix versus Natalya. Beth Phoenix isn't in the company anymore. Anyway, it would be cool if women's matches weren't a press break. It would. And I've seen this year alone, I've seen some great women's matches, all in British wrestling. April Davids versus Viper was a fantastic match. There's Pro Wrestling Eve over here in the UK. I'm going to one of their shows soon, I reckon. They are a Pacific women's fed, and Shimmer over in America are all women, and they're fantastic. The Japanese women's wrestling is the best you'll see anywhere. It's, in some respects, it's better than the men's. WWE Week divas, I've so little interest in, and them being in Playboy doesn't interest me at all. Before I started recording this, I'm watching Judgment Day 2003 for my 10 Years Ago series, and we'll put it as I mentioned before in a couple of weeks' time. And there's a bikini contest between Sable and Tori Wilson, and both of them in Playboy, and I don't give a shit about either of them. Genuinely don't, but surely what I'm saying is that both Tori Wilson, the point I'm going to use, the reason I brought that up is both Sable and Tori Wilson were particularly over with the fans before they posed. Surely, what you're saying, the way you word it is that, oh my God, sorry, I just saw the next question. One of the questions I can't stand, genuinely can't stand to forget them. It's the way you're wording it is that a diva should be in Playboy and then start wrestling, because that being the fact they've been in Playboy will get them over, and I don't agree with that at all. Break Belfast TV says, if you look at this. Bear in mind, I've said, don't ask me particularly hard questions. If you had a chance to run Raw for a whole year, what would you do in your time? Who would you put your belts on? Who would you have feuding? Who would you have fire? Not answering that one. Way too hard. I mean, come on. I've got to ask you, a year's worth of storylines in what? In a video that's already very long. Come on, man. That's not fair, is it? That's just not fair. I mean, that is a question, that's a Q&A. That's a question mark in its own right. That's one episode. Book Raw for a year with the current roster. Who would you get rid of? Who would you have the belts on? I mean, I can go for simple things. I would take John Cena off TV for 6 months. Not because I don't particularly like John Cena, because it would freshen him up a little bit. John Cena is stale as fuck at the moment, and the fans would miss him and all that. How's that sound? But the thing with Raw is, if you'd have told me a year ago about Ryback, for example, getting the title shot on the next pay-per-view, I would have laughed at you. Of course I would. I mean, who the fuck's Ryback? Skip Sheffield. So, in a year's time, Skip Sheffield will be headlining Extreme Rules against John Cena. That's the thing about the wrestling business. You can't predict shit like that. So I said before about where do you think WCW will be in 10 years? You can't answer it. You just can't. You just can't answer it because the way the wrestling business works, some people are hits and some people misses. I'm not prepared to answer that question. How's that sound? YMCA says, something I've always wondered about the inside of the business. Are thumbtacks in wrestling real, or are just made to stick in the wrestlers' bodies? This is the question that I missed before, and this was meant to be on the first part of the Q&A. I'm sorry, YMCA, that I completely missed it. Wrestling thumbtacks, trust me on this one, are 100% real. Now, a question that I reckon you should have put is, do they hurt? As someone who's taken a lot of bumps on thumbtacks, I'll tell you this: if you stand on a thumbtack, yeah, it fucking hurts. It really hurts, yeah, because all the pressure's on one point. If you take a bump onto thumbtacks, trust me on this one, as someone who's done it, I got spine busted onto thumbtacks once by Danny Ace, yeah. There was a road sign underneath them as well, so it was right onto thumbtacks. Doesn't hurt in the slightest. Doesn't hurt at all. Trust me, it does not hurt, because the weight, your body weight, is spread out so much that though they do go into your body, it just doesn't hurt. It genuinely doesn't. Try it sometime if you really want to. So lay some thumbtacks out on the ground and leap backwards into them. Trust me, it won't hurt. But the thing is, you have to do it fast. If you do it slowly, if you're nervous about it, if you put some thumbtacks down on the ground, yeah, and you cautiously back into them, it's like, fuck, you will feel every single one of them go into you, yeah. If you do it fast, and again, maybe it's because you're in a match and your adrenaline's flowing, it doesn't hurt. It's all in the cell. Made to stick in wrestlers' bodies. I don't know how they could have done that, to be honest. Scene Play 101. Gosh, we're almost done. We've only got 1, 2, 3 questions left. Scene Play 101 says, thoughts on Liverpool this season? Do you really think there's been that much improvement under Rodgers? I mean, they were only 5 points better off than they were this time last season. Let me tell you something. I know I'm wearing a Liverpool top. I'm also wearing my Dawson clothes. You'll probably notice there's a great big hole there, which is where my lovely rabbit Thumper decided that I don't like that. I'm going to munch my way through that one. In fact, he liked it so much that he put 3 holes in it. One of these days I'm going to show you my rabbits on camera, but they hate this room. They live in the living room. I've got house rabbits. They're allowed to run the house. They're allowed to go wherever they want. They just will not come in this room because there's no carpet. So they haven't got any grip. Anyway, Liverpool, let me tell you something. This season is the first season in ages where I've done things on a Saturday night and not thought to myself, man, I need to go and watch Match of the Day. I've just stopped caring about my team. You know, I know, like I say, wearing a Liverpool shirt, but it's my Dawson one. You know, I'm wearing my Dawson pants that are covered in hot rod burns, you know. I just don't care. Liverpool have been so crap this last couple of seasons that instead of just going, you know, instead of, oh, come on, they'll be alright in a couple of seasons, I've just gone, I just don't give a damn. And when I still check the results, I have final score on sometimes on a Saturday, and when Liverpool loses, like, meh. Whereas before, it's like, for fuck's sake, come on, Liverpool. It's like, meh. I just don't care. I'm not interested anymore. It's basically killed my interest in football. And what it means is that I'll watch a match, like, you know, the Bayern Munich versus Barcelona match the other night, yeah? Watched that as a neutral, loved it. Fantastic match, yeah? Because, I mean, all my friends are Manchester United fans. And I hate them. I genuinely hate them for liking Man United. Do you know what it is? It's not that even the Man United fans, it's their utter belief that when their team go 3-0 down, that they're still going to win. Because what happens? They drew 3. The worst that happens is they draw 3-0. They've got this unshakable belief in their team that they will pull it back. And I just can't do that with Liverpool. Liverpool go a goal down, they will lose. And you know, they never ever pull it back, so I just don't care. Look, we've got a hater one. We've got a hater one. All these questions, 100 questions there. Listen to this. Hi, you fat fuck! In capitals. Do you get aroused when you're watching shitty future wank? I bet you wank under the table and fingering your sweaty arse while sweaty wrestlers roll around. Thank mate. I mean, is there any answer? Do you want me to do that one? Let's start. Do I get aroused while watching shitty future wank? I don't know what shitty future wank is, so no I don't. I bet you wank under the table and fingering your sweaty arse. That's a past tense. I was fingering. It's like that doesn't even work, because if you're referring to future shock, they don't have tables there. Why say that? Stupid. But that's the only hater one we have. The only one, if you don't count the ones that Bobby Cash put, because he's an idiot, is Bobby Cash awesome, or both? I mean, that's a great question, admittedly, but at the same time, it's not really a hater question. That's the only one we've had. And the last question. Kink Stir says, what are your top 5 Brit Rest feds and why? I'll ask your top 5 as I know you're a big fan of Future Shock, and I've links with GPW and Great Bear, so I suspect they'll make the list. You'd be surprised. Let me tell you, right, obviously, top of the list is Future Shock. Future Shock are where, I mean, this poster, that show, Future Shock 58, Cold Banner, that's where it all started. And Future Shock are consistently fantastic shows. They are consistently. I've never come away from a Future Shock going, God, that was wank. Every single time it's like, that was a great show. Future Shock are top of the list. Now, in joint second, so we'll say second and third. Second is Fight Club Pro. I've only been to 3 of their shows, but every single time I've come away absolutely buzzing my tits off, going, that was awesome. Now, the contrasting style is why I say they're joint second is GPW. GPW are just like Future Shock, just on a bigger scale, in my opinion. They are storyline-driven fed. Okay, they are. Like I say, it's a bigger hall. That's what when I say it's a bigger scale. That's what I mean. It's a bigger venue than the Guildhall where the Future Shock guys wrestle. GPW, I mean, the thing about GPW is they are, in my opinion, God, I hope I don't get in trouble for this one, but they're a hit and miss show. They're a hit and miss company. So they'll put on a show that is absolutely awesome, and then the next show that they put on is average. And then the next show they put on is awesome, and then the next show they put on has got a couple of matches on that are fucking awesome. But then they're like, oh, that was alright. You know what I mean? Great Bear, I've got so much time for. They are number 4. They are not the conventional fed. And what I mean by that is they do crazy, stupid things. I mean, look at some of the fed, look at the names of their shows. You know, Straight Buzzing Robo Tuzzing is a show that I went to. Exciting Battle in Cheshire is a show that I've been to. The last show, which I always get wrong, was named after the 5 members of the band The Saturdays in order of fitness. So it's MFURV, I think it was. Ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. The thing about Great Bear is, because of where they are, they're based in Sandbach these days, which is in between, like, Birmingham and Manchester. So the thing about that is that you see all the guys from the northwest. You see Cyanide, who's rubbish, and DGL, and LA Austin, and, you know, people like that you see at GPW or you see at Future Shock, but they also bring up guys that you don't see ever in the northwest. So Chris Brooks. And the next show they've got Mark Andrews debuting, which is fucking awesome because I work there. I'm the commentator. I get to call Mark Andrews match. Fucking yeah. They also, though, bring in big superstars. They brought in Jonathan Gresham and they brought in Zack Sabre Jr. And that makes me a really, really happy chappy. You know, they brought in Chuck Taylor, for example. And, you know, I love working there. And, of course, I have Bobby Cash by my side. Who, I mean, I would work with Bobby every day of the week if I had my way. I genuinely would because I've got so much time for the guy. 5th is a tricky one. It's a genuinely hard one. It will probably be a toss-up between Infinite Promotions in Liverpool, because I love their venue, I love the guys they have wrestling for them, and I love what they're doing. But I also have got a real lot of time for House of Pain over in Nottingham. The House of Pain's more primarily a training show, but the wrestlers that they put on their shows are of such good quality. But I would also, even though this is the thing, even though I've only been there once, I love the one time I went to Progress Wrestling in London was just phenomenal. And you know, there's a lot of other really, really good feds out there. I mean, I say this all the time. If you can get to your local fed, give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You'll spend a tenner. You'll see some wrestling in front of you, not from fucking row 75 like you will with a WWE show for the same money. And what's the worst that can happen? You may go to it and go, this is shit. I'm not seeing John Cena here. You also, if you open your eyes and don't expect to see John Cena, actually see something that you like. I know. Future Shock at the top, though, of course. Future Shock at the very, very top. Like I say, GPW, it probably actually is GPW and then Fight Club Pro. So GPW second and then Fight Club Pro third. The thing is, Fight Club Pro, I've only been 3 times, so I haven't really got the experience with it, you know? And ladies and gentlemen, that is that. For hopefully another 6 months, maybe even longer. We will do another one of these when we get to 1,500 subscribers. At this moment in time, I have 1,025 subscribers, so it's going to be quite a while yet. Hooray for that. Thank you to every single one of you who has asked me a question. I hope I've done my very best to answer your questions. We've had a great lot. I've got to say, a great lot of questions. There's been the occasional exception, but overall, fantastic. You guys all deserve a big round of applause. That's cheesy, isn't it? For asking those questions. They were absolutely fantastic. You probably noticed I didn't have a drink, so I'm going to go and stop now because my throat really, really hurts. I've been Mark P. This has been Question Mark. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Hit that like. Leave me a comment. I read them all, and I'll see you all very soon. Take it easy, guys.